I kid you not, I'm pretty sure Friday actually said, Friday, her partner, Friday had said, I feel like Michelle Visage, and wow, retweeted it, and then Michelle Visage, quote tweeted it, and I just remember going, Michelle, you know you would not wear it. Stop it. Don't say that. Don't lie to the girl. I mean, I kind of said that I wouldn't do Drag Race anymore. Just because after going through the experience of Call Me Mother, I think that it kind of shifted how I seen production people when we were working with Peppermint. And this is not, she's a businesswoman. She is a busy woman. And like, I totally get it. But when it came to the show, I personally feel like she wasn't always there with us.
Hello everyone and welcome back for some more freshly brewed drag tea. Today I have with me an incredible Canadian queen who graced our screens when she appeared on the Makeover Challenge on Season 2 of Canada's Drag Race, where she was partnered with Isis Couture. She then went on to compete in Season 2 of Call Me Mother. I'm super excited for you all to get to know her better and learn more about her amazing journey in drag. We'll of course be talking all things Drag Race, and I'll be asking some of the amazing questions you all sent in. Please join me in welcoming the always stunning Makayla Couture!
Hello, everyone. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for being here. You look fabulous, by the way.
Thank you. This is the first interview I've worn like my natural hair in, so you're getting the all the beauty.
I know, I love it. It's given me very like, I don't know. I am telling you I'm not going, like that is not show.
Oh my God, yes. yes. I want to give a bit of Jennifer Hudson, a little bit of Grace Jones, a pull from the 70s. Like that's very my vibe right now.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw the hair. I was like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Well, you look fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited. Obviously, we met each other sort of relatively recently at DragCon, which was lovely. So I'll put up a picture. But it was lovely meeting you.
It was so lovely meeting you. It was nice to actually finally be able to like see the real person like in real life. Like that was probably the best part of DragCon, just like finally seeing everyone I interact with online, just like in person.
Yeah, it was lovely. I saw I got to meet a few different like content creators, but also the queens like yourself, and Isis was there obviously because you were part of her booth, like the House of Couture, and Kimmy was there as well. Kimmy wasn't there when I was there, but she was there a different time. So, but yeah, and I also have got my signed photo.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Here's my ring light. There you go. It gives you like a halo effect.
I was just about to say the little halo right above my head.
There you go.
Wow. The world just knows.
Well, no, I mean, I'd love, I'm sure my audience they were very excited. There was lots of questions for you. But I guess, so my audience will probably know you best from the Makeover Challenge on Season 2 of Canada's Drag Race, where you were partnered with Isis. And you're now in the House of Couture as well, in Isis's house. So I was just wondering maybe if you could sort of explain a bit about how you got involved in the Makeover Challenge and sort of how that all came about in terms of your career now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, it's funny because I had already kind of established a drag career for myself before the episode. I started drag when I was about like 16 or so. And, I went to university, but it was at the height of the pandemic. So I wasn't really feeling it. And I knew that if I left, I had to do something and do it very seriously. So of course, the business side of me came through and I was just like, I'm going to apply to every grant, every little project that shows up and just ask if I can turn it into a regular artist grant and turn it into some sort of drag project. And so the day that I got the email for, like casting, looking for teens, I was actually getting ready for a music video that day that I was filming. That's on YouTube. Yeah. And I ironically, so I was just like, sitting there kind of like getting things into the suitcase, getting ready. And I seen this email and I was assuming that it was just some sort of like news broadcast thing because it was in the beginning of June, I believe. So I just thought it was some sort of like pride project that they wanted teens for. And then lo and behold, I go and I do the interview process and everything. And at the time, I was still 18. I was turning 19 in maybe a week or so. And so we do all of that. I hop on the call. They're asking me a bunch of questions. And then boom, boom, boom. They were like, oh, well, now you are a makeover guest on Canada's Drag Race. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. Like it was literally on my list of things for, because you can't get onto Drag Race until you're 19. And so that was on my list for the new year. So it was kind of insane that like I kind of got like a little taste of it being there as a makeover guest.
Oh, it's so lovely. And I mean, like, that sounds very showbiz that you had like a music video that day and everything. Like, that's crazy.
It was a very emotional day because I got to like really like look back and be like, oh my God, high school me would be so proud.
No, I mean that's great. And so how old were you when you were filming it then?
Yeah, so when we were filming, I was still 18. I turned 19 maybe 5 days after, 5 days after filming. And then 5 days after that, I had my first real like live gig.
That's
I know. 19-year-old me was having a blast.
not many 18/19-year-olds can say that that's what like that was their sort of few weeks was like doing music
Right.
video, drag race, live show. Like that's crazy.
I'm telling you, like I always tell people that every drag career is going to be so different with how you start out. So like just do it and have fun because you never know what's going to happen. You really, really never know.
No, well, we were glad you did get on because I mean, I'm sure people remember it was like there was a makeover episode and it was for prom, so there was obviously all sort of young people like yourself who couldn't go to prom because of COVID,
Yeah.
and then obviously. So, what did it feel like then walking into the workroom? Did you know any of the queens from before or recognize them?
I did. So I knew Eve and Kendall. Obviously Eve wasn't there for that episode, but I knew Eve and Kendall. And I had known that they had both left for the show because I seen the little spoiler cast through Reddit. So I didn't know who was still there, but I knew Kendall. Like we had interacted so much online prior to. And funny thing is when we arrived, had she not seen the person she ended up being paired with, she was going to pick me because we just knew each other so well. But of course, she went with Alex, who I feel like is literally her twin. And it made so much sense with their personality.
Yeah, no, it was great, and it was a lovely episode. And I like I said, I think because Kendall got to choose who was like she did all the pairings, and I thought she did a really good job. That it was very fair, and also every single pairing, I was like, yeah, that's like a match made in heaven. That they're all really similar.
Definitely. I feel like all of our vibes matched exactly who we were paired with. Like I now, at first I was like, oh my God, I really wanted Kendall. But like after going throughout the rest of the day of filming, I was like, I probably have one of the best people to be paired with. Like this is it probably like me and Isis are probably the exact same person with different lived experiences. It's like that's how insanely similar we are.
It was great to see because you had like a really sweet connection, and I love Isis. She's one of my favorites. She's like, and she was so funny. When I saw you and her at DragCon, she was so sweet, so lovely, and like, yeah, she's one of my favorites. So when I saw you two together, I thought you seemed like a really lovely pairing. What did it feel like then, kind of knowing? Because you'd already done drag, like you said, and you were clearly a pro. You came in with, walking in the heels. You were absolutely killing it. So I knew you were going to do well. I thought you were like going to slay it, kind of thing. So what did it feel like then when you actually thought, oh, I'm going to be in full drag now? How did that feel?
It was weird because I had never had my makeup done by someone else. And so I was kind of just like, okay, I'm really excited for this experience, but I'm also just like, I hate when people touch my face. So so it was fun and it was interesting because I also knew I feel like I'm that generation that grew up on Drag Race. Like I've been watching it since I was like 14 or so. And so I kind of got to I understand that it's more of a personality show than it is about the drag itself. And so I knew that I wanted to be able to tell as much stories and as much about, all the different communities that I'm a part of, and talk about all those different things. And so being there, I don't know, I felt like a contestant. I fully was just like, I'm gonna let everything go. I'm gonna open up to the world and we'll see what happens. And I feel like I really did reap the benefits from opening up about everything.
You definitely did. And I think you, like I said, you came across as a total pro as soon as you were walking in it and like those heels. And even Isis was like, okay, like it was
Yeah.
so good. And so obviously, yeah. So you get paired with Isis, and then you're doing the challenge. And Isis says she's going to make you this red dress because that's your favorite color. You really like that, and so your drag name for that episode was Ruby Couture, but you now go by Makayla Couture because that's your
Yeah.
real name. How did that feel when you did? Because I assume if you didn't know Isis, maybe you didn't know how good a designer she is.
I didn't, but we did get to talk before, like, where we have that moment of just like getting to know each other. And I heard that she had won the design challenge, both of the design challenges prior to. So I had an idea of, how good of a designer she might be. And I was kind of just really excited to see how this all was going to play out. I also didn't see what she was wearing for her cool mom look because they were given a totally different prompt for the makeover challenge, so it was kind of a surprise that they had to make an outfit that kind of fit with what they had brought already. But again, yeah, I never got to see what she brought. So we were kind of just like, I kept asking, I was like, oh, like, do you think this is gonna work? Like, I don't know what you're wearing, da, da, da. And I was nervous for her, but I was also like, I trust you fully. And we came out with what we came out.
No, I mean, Isis did an incredible job on you. Like, you looked amazing. I remember when you walked out, I mean, I was like, she looks good before, she looks going to look good afterwards. But like, you looked so good. Like, I couldn't believe, I was like, you look like a contestant. I would have believed you were one of the contestants. It was crazy.
I was fully ready to like just be a part of the rest of the show, and they took it out and I really wish they kept it in, but I so they were talking to me, and the judges, they were talking to me and they were just like, oh my god, you look so amazing, da, 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 da. And they were like, you look like a real contestant. And I said, well, I have my bags in the hotel, I'm ready to go, like, let's do it. Stop, let's restart, I'm so ready.
You could have done, I'm sure. Like, I mean, you've shown obviously from then that you've like, you are always stunning and everything. So I think I can totally see you as doing that. And so, yeah, one of the moments that I loved them like really a lot from the episode was when you were getting painted by Isis. You were having this conversation, and you were sort of talking about that you had, not a great time at high school before that, and then Isis also said that. Talking about herself, and you had this really lovely connection where she said, you don't need to be alone. I'll give you my phone number and you can contact me anytime. And it was just so sincere. Like, you could tell it wasn't a TV moment. Like, Isis is that sort of person. I was wondering what that was like in the moment.
You will never be alone. If you ever have any negative thoughts, if there's anything, or if you literally just want to talk to somebody, before you leave, I will give you my phone number. I'll give you all my contact information. You're never going to be alone, okay? Ever again, I promise.
It was interesting because I'm not a crier. I refuse to cry. And I remember just like, I don't remember how the conversation had begun, but we were just talking about, high school and everything. And I was like slowly opening up about it. And I just remember telling myself in my head, like, okay, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Like, you're fine. Like, just don't cry. You got this. And I feel like because I kept telling myself all of that, and because of like just the love that I felt from Ice, I kind of like broke down, and it like I think in that moment when she seen how raw and authentic I was as well, it allowed her to open up and be as raw and authentic, with me. And we had this conversation after filming. She originally was never, she told the production staff that like she is not telling that story, the story that she told during that episode. She said, I refuse to do it. I'm not doing it. But because of the moment that we had, it made her feel comfortable to then open up and talk about, something traumatic that happened to her. And I think that that's exactly what she needed to do. She just needed to let that go. And it allowed both of us to just, move past this traumatic experience we've both gone through and, use each other as cushion pillows to just like give each other support and love.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you could tell it was a really genuine moment. And then Isis obviously talked about it in more like in the confessional bit she was talking about, and you could tell it meant a lot to her. And I was watching it. I was like, oh, it was so sweet. So I'm glad that you managed to turn something negative into a positive. And obviously you've now been adopted into the House of Couture. So what's that like? Like when she said that, did you think that was really going to happen, or did you think, oh, like she's just saying that?
I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. I was just like, oh my God, I'm on Drag Race. Like that's all that was going through my head. But I was honored. I was truly honored. And it meant a lot to me. I remember that night I had gone to the hotel, and kind of like looked up. I was like, Isis Couture, who is this person? And I found her, I found Kimmy, I found Savannah and the whole family. And I was just like, this is kind of the drag family that I would want. I originally kind of started drag with the idea that I would never have a drag family just because I would never want someone to take credit for the work I did. And Isis never does that. She literally always tells people like, with or without Drag Race, Makayla would be an absolute star without me or with her. So I really do. I'm just like, I'm so thankful for her and everything she's done and the amount of love and support that she gives all three of her children.
No, I love Isis. She seems genuinely like a lovely person. So how much out of interest, so obviously you are part of the House of Couture now. And so how much sort of interaction do you have with Isis? Because obviously you came to DragCon, even though you've technically not been a contestant, but I thought it was really lovely that she included you in that. I assume that was how it went.
Yeah, it was. So I remember we had like a gig together in some small town, and she was like, oh, like, are you going to DragCon UK? And I was like, no, like, I don't really have the money to go. And I was just gonna, stay home, do a few gigs. And she was like, oh, like, that wasn't the question. I asked you, do you want to go to DragCon? And I was like, I guess, yeah. And she was just like, okay, boom. And like in a week, it was like, hey, here's your flight, here's this is the booth number, da 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 da. And I was like, oh wow, okay, amazing. And I don't remember the sponsor's name, but it was all through a sponsor, which is so thankful to them. And then everything else from the little Instagram post that DragCon put up to me performing on the stage, it was all just like World of Wonder and DragCon just being like, we think you're amazing and we want to continue to support you. And that felt so good to hear from them and be recognized as like a good artist, whether or not I am a contestant in their show.
No, I mean, yeah, because you were amazing on the show. Like of all the makeover guests, you're definitely one that I remember because you just seemed like a contestant. You were so good. So I can see why it made sense. And then because I remember getting to DragCon and I knew you were there. We'd sort of talked before, but I didn't know you were part of the House of Couture because it just said your name and the booth number, but I hadn't sort of clocked that it was the same as Isis's. So when I got there, I was like, oh, this is the House of Couture booth. And it had the longest line I've waited in. I was waiting for like 40 minutes, like not a complaint, but it was so busy the whole day. And it looked so cool with Isis's outfits from Canada versus the World, like the black one looked so cool. What was that like at DragCon then? Because I guess you were really getting a full experience as if you were a drag race queen.
Yeah, it was really insane because for me, it's like, I have so many interactions with so many people across the world online, but for me personally, I just kind of go to all my fans are in Canada. And like that's all. And even for the most part, I never even really consider anyone a fan. I'm just like, you are someone who really likes drag, and I just so happen to be a drag performer. But to see people like come up and like be like, you are amazing, like you really helped me on when you were on this episode, and seeing you now go to Call Me Mother, like it's so amazing to see you just grow as an artist, and you're an inspiration. All those things, just it made me change my perspective of what this episode did for me, and just like how much people I've been affecting for the past, I think it's been a year or 2 years now. So I'm forever grateful and so honored to be, someone that's changing lives.
I mean, that for someone so young, like if you forgive me for asking, you must be what, 20, 21?
Yeah, I'm 20.
So like for someone so young, like that's insane. Like that's just insane that you managed to do all of this stuff when you haven't even been on the show yet. Like yet, let's hope. But yeah, it's insane.
Thank you. Thank you. Truly. It means a lot.
And so in terms of going back to the episode, so obviously you were on the episode, and like I said, I thought you did amazing. Like you did so well. Isis did an incredible job. Interesting that you said earlier that they were given a different prompt for their outfits, because that was really the only critique that Isis got, was that she didn't really look like you, and there wasn't a huge amount of sort of family resemblance in that sense. But that, I guess that kind of makes sense, because I remember watching it and thinking, you both look good, but I guess together there wasn't a storyline that usually would happen on the makeover. But I thought you two just looked so good. And I'll be honest, I really thought you were actually going to win, if I'm honest. So
call me an Isis delusional, but so did we.
That was going to be my question. How did you, because obviously you unfortunately landed in the bottom two, which is the opposite of what I thought. So what did you two think?
Well, it was funny because we were just like, I kid you not, we were getting ready, and like I think I was the first one dressed, or some first two dressed, and I remember me and Isis were like looking in the mirror, and we're just like, oh yeah, we got this. We got this. We were just like looking around the room, and we're shady. We're also a very shady house, and we were just like, yeah, that's not a good outfit. They're not winning. No, there's no way in the like like trust me, in person, there's a lot of outfits that were there that I just cannot believe was scored higher. But everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to, and we're happy. We're happy.
Yeah, no, I definitely, when I remember watching it, and as soon as you walked out, because I think you were the first on the runway, that on TV at least, I was like, they've won. Like, to me, they've won. All right. I was like, how can anyone beat that? And I think because Pythia did win, I think, didn't she? I think overall. And I can see why. They were also really cool. Like, the outfit was really good. And I think if you and Isis had a slightly more, like, looked similar, I think you two would have won, because you looked so good. It was like incredible.
Thank you. I truly do think that it didn't come down to the garment itself. I think it was just the storyline. Like, we are just in that moment, we were just like, oh, this is a fashion moment. This is a fashion moment, that we were so focused on just like, let's strut, let's look good, that we didn't actually take into consideration that, like, if she's a busted showgirl and she has this like prom queen daughter, we could have played up this whole like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, like all of that. And it would have been funny. It would have made sense. Because, when you look at, say, Kendall and her partner, it's like, well, they didn't actually match. Like, one was wearing green, the other one was in a Flintstone outfit. It was like, it didn't necessarily make sense, but because they played up the storyline, it made them safe. And this is where my Drag Race brain comes in, where I'm like, oh, duh.
It's true. Like I said, I think presentation is a lot of it. And then yeah, I thought you two both sold it. You had the House of Couture, like this, the sultry look, the pose, like you had all of that down. But yeah, I guess I can sort of see why that was a critique, but I still thought you looked
Yeah.
so good.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? To this day, it is still the highest rated episode in the Canada Drag Race franchise. So I'm holding on to that win. I don't have an award for it, but I will make one myself.
Like I can see why, because I think not only did everyone look good, but it was just a really joyous episode, and it was celebrating the different sort of like the queer spectrum, and everyone sort of was bringing something different. It was really cool, and it was very heartwarming. So,
Definitely.
what did it feel like then? Obviously, so unfortunately, you did fall in the bottom two. What did it feel like then watching Isis have to lip sync for her life? Like watching that backstage, what was that like?
Oh, I was so obsessed because I had never seen her perform before. So watching it, I was like, oh, work. Yeah, that's my drag mother. Oh my God, absolutely. It was everything. They filmed us, kind of reacting, and you got like a few shots of it, but I don't think you fully got to see how much I was living. I was like, oh my God, Isis won. Like she won. I can see it. And in that moment, I knew that, well, even before that, I knew that she was going to win the whole season without even watching it. I was just like, yeah, you're a winner. I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah, because that's an interesting part of it. Because I mean, yeah, watching the lip sync, I think Adriana was also great, but you could tell Isis is an insane performer. Like she's so good, and she looks good as well. But it must have been weird after the season, like when it aired. Because obviously then you found out. So not only is she kind of like your new drag mother, but she's also the winner of Canada's Drag Race season 2.
Definitely such a weird moment because people then, at that time, people were like, you better be on Drag Race. Like you have to do this. We like it did feel very I don't know the words I want to use for it, but it did feel like I wasn't making a decision for myself. I was applying for other people. And I we'll get into it a bit more, but like I did feel like that's kind of why my first audition tape for season 3 was not the best that it could have been.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question. A lot of people want to know, have you applied, or do you want to apply for Canada's Drag Race because they think you would be excellent on it?
Thank you. I think I'd be excellent on it too. I did apply for season 3 and I did not get on, unfortunately. I watched my video back a few times, and I told myself, and I've told other drag artists, that if at any point you feel embarrassed by a certain part of your video, it's not a good video. If you don't feel absolutely confident about every last word, every last second of your video, it's not a good video. Like you just throw it away, give it up, do it over again, maybe. Like truly, that's how I personally feel. And I was embarrassed by certain parts of my video. I was just like, this is not good. I don't like it. Da, da, da. But I still submitted it. And I had made it to, I believe it's like the second last round of the whole audition process. So I was almost there. I was almost there. But I unfortunately didn't get the last call. And at first I was a little sad, but then I became very okay with it because I in my heart I felt like it wasn't time yet. Like I could go on and maybe I would do good, but just not right now. Like there are parts of me that at that time that I felt could be tweaked a bit more to be like a real winner. Like if I'm going to win. And like I feel like there's little things at that time. I felt like there were still little things that needed to be tweaked so that I could actually go in and be like, ugh, we're doing it. We're killing it.
No, I mean, I definitely think you would kill it. I mean, you've shown that you're so good at, what you do, and you've had such an amazing sort of career, even though Drag Race wasn't your career to start with. It's kind of like propelled you into almost as if it was. Like it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so one thing that I thought was really interesting was because if you get on, hopefully, let's say season 4 or whenever it might be, you would be the first makeover contestant to come back to be on a season ever on any franchise that I'm aware of. So that would also be a cool storyline, I think, for the show. Not only do you deserve to go on, but I think it would just, and the fact that your drag mother's a winner, like that, I don't know, just so many things would be a cool storyline. I can see why Drag Race would really want that.
Yeah, I don't know what I can and can't say. What I can say is I'm definitely not on season 4. For all of those rumors that think that I've auditioned, I have not. Well, I did audition, but I unfortunately did not get on. Which I also feel like was such a good decision. Like I it's sad at the beginning because you're just like, oh, I really want this. But then when you sit with it and you think about it more, you're like, it's not the time. And I think that once it is the right time, I'll know it, they'll know it, and everything will just work out so perfectly. Um, Unfortunately, Canadian queens are not performing well when it comes to like followers and everything. And I want to make sure that once I get on the show, I like, re-bring all of the season 1 traction that we had and bring that all back to Canada and show that like Canadians are killing it. Like we're just as good as the American queens and the UK queens and the Down Under queens. Like we are amazing and we deserve the likes, the follows, the international shows and all the fans. Like I am just really excited for that.
Well, you talk as if you are. You've convinced me. If I was a casting person, I would put you on.
Well, it's not time yet, unfortunately, but one day.
Well, I do hope it, works out for season 5 or whatever. I mean, I think we just want you on. That's we don't care when it is, as long as you're ready. Because, like you said, we'd rather you go on and kill it because you're ready than go on too soon and be an early out, and then it's sort of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I kind of said that I wouldn't do Drag Race anymore. Just because after going through the experience of Call Me Mother, I think that it kind of shifted how I seen production people, especially when it's unfortunately, I don't know if this is like an unfortunate or if it's a good thing, but I do have a lot of connections within like the TV media world. And so knowing all these people who run the production of Canada's Drag Race and knowing all these people who run Call Me Mother and Dragula, et cetera, it's like I love you all so much that I don't want to my experience on the show to then alter how I see some of these people. Yeah, which is like it's a very interesting thing, and like I know a lot of people won't get it, but again, and I said it at the beginning, drag shows have nothing to do with actual drag. It's everything about personality and then runways. And that's unfortunate. I wish it was a bit more focused on like actual drag, but I don't think that I'm mentally prepared to be put in a situation where I know I'm going to be purposely with and like see people that I have had drinks with or have talked over Instagram with play into how I'm perceived to the world.
Well, that's a very mature attitude and very sort of, good self-perception. So are you saying that you don't want to do Drag Race at all, or you're just not right now, you mean?
I think just not right now, but you know what? If they ever reached out and were just like, "Hey, let's talk," then my phone's available.
Well, so if you're listening, then it's production.
And I know they're listening. I've heard some things. Like they'll reach out and be like, "Oh, I seen you did this interview and you said this."
So that's actually a great segue into what I was going to ask next was so Call Me Mother. So obviously after Drag Race, you had that amazing opportunity and everything, and then so Call Me Mother comes along. As I sort of said to you before we started, so I've only seen clips of Call Me Mother because we don't get it in the UK as far as I'm aware. I haven't been able to find it on any platform. I've seen sort of clips of it and read about it. So I was wondering if you could perhaps talk a bit about it because my audience might also not quite know what it is.
Yeah. I always tell people that my experience on the show was both awful and the best time ever, all wrapped up into one. Um, there was just let's start with the beginning. I kind of just did it because I didn't get onto Drag Race, which was like that's totally fine. I totally understood. And I had applied for Call Me Mother the year before, and at that time I did. That was before we had filmed Drag Race. And that I had even known that I was going to be doing Drag Race. So I applied for the show. It didn't have a name just yet. But I had seen that it was just essentially an opportunity for young drag artists to grow and become better drag artists in a competitive setting. And that was kind of what they had told us the format was going to be like. And I was so for it because, again, as I had said, there's so many things about my drag that I didn't fully get just as yet, that I feel like the show brought out of me. And unfortunately, the things that I learned about my drag was through the pain of the show. So unfortunately, I was in the bottom um every episode from episode 3 onward to the finale. And I didn't get it. It didn't make sense to me. I felt like I was putting my absolute all into it. And when I got home and the show was finally out, everyone agreed. Like it was kind of just like you put Makayla in the bottom for no real reason. It didn't necessarily feel justified. And so that's kind of what I was talking about when it's like, I know the production so well, but because of, how they've, talked with the judges about stuff and, how they made things seem, it just, I can't see them in a good light anymore because of that experience. It just really altered um, you know, how I see drag TV. And you would want it to be something joyful and loving, especially because the show they said over and over again, they drilled it to us that like we don't want to be like Drag Race. We want to make this as much of a loving experience as possible. And we want you all to grow as artists. And it's like you say all of that, but then you have multiple artists going home with a freaking like therapy bill longer than I don't know what we paid to get to do the show, So that's just the unfortunate part. But again, as I was saying, through all of that pain, I then rediscovered my drag persona, and I feel like I've elevated myself 10 times more than I was when I first started that show or when I had filmed Drag Race and prior to that. So I'm very happy with where I am now. And I guess I'm not going to be like, thank you for giving me trauma because it helped me become a better artist. But, after the show, I did realize that I am and I can be so much more, and that my placement in a show does not dictate who I am as a person. I talked too much. I'm going to sip some tea.
That's what I mean. You're a drag performer. They love to talk. We all do. Like that's what we're all here for. I've been told the same thing, and I'm not even a drag performer. So. Well, no, I mean, so obviously, like, sorry that you had that experience, I guess. So, I mean, I'd love to sort of delve into that a little bit more if that's okay. But first, in terms of Call Me Mother, if I'm correct, tell me if I'm wrong. So the way it works is it's called Call Me Mother because there are judges and they're like the mother of a house, and you're a bit like The Voice without singing. You are getting into their house. So like Peppermint from season 9 of Drag Race, even though she's not Canadian, is one of the judges, right? And you were in her house, I believe.
Exactly.
And then every week someone goes home, but I guess it almost a bit like X Factor maybe, but for drag in that sense, because you've got like someone who's your mentor, I guess is probably the best word.
Yeah, no, exactly that. It's kind of like it's like a drag version of The Voice where, you're put into a house, you're all working together. And this is kind of where I lost the we want you to grow as drag artists. There was no point where there was actual learning. Like, I think that was the part that I was missing. It was like, how do I better myself if there's no critiques that are actually bettering me? Like a lot of a lot of the things that they would say on the runway were more so like put downs. And it was like, okay, you can like, say you don't like a certain thing, but then because your show is about growing as artists, how do I then elevate what you're talking about? Like, if you want me to put stones on it, say, I need you to start stoning your runways. If you want me to start wearing gowns, say you don't want to see bodysuits, you want to see gowns. Or if you see a pair of shoes, then you're like, I don't want to see those shoes anymore. Say you want to see new shoes on the runway. And that's just like little things that I heard from everyone's critiques that I was just like, okay, then why don't you tell them exactly what you're looking for instead of just saying, you look like garbage? Okay, well then where do I go from there? You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah, we've seen it on Drag Race as well, that sometimes the critiques are probably done more because it makes good television rather than it being actually constructive and helpful.
Exactly. And it just doesn't help the competitor because then they're kind of stuck there like, well, you want me to change something, but you're not telling me exactly what it is I need to change. Or it's a change that's so out of like, out of my world where, sometimes they've told people your wardrobe is just too basic. And it's like, well, I'm not a designer, so how do I now teach myself how to sew in my hotel room and create an even better, garment? It's a little harder when there's not much help from there. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does, especially as someone young. And like that, the whole point of the show, from what I read, was it's about up and coming drag performers, and it's very inclusive. So it's not just drag queens like on Drag Race, it's like drag kings and non-binary people and like lots of different types of drag. So in terms of, obviously you were in the house of, is it Dulcet?
Yes.
Which is Peppermint's house. So how much interaction did you have with Peppermint then?
A lot, actually. How filming worked was we usually had either 2 to 4 days of filming an episode. So there would be essentially like 1 or 2 full days where I'm just with Peppermint. Like our whole house is with Peppermint, and we're strategizing. Wow, English is leaving my brain right now. Where we're working together and just like collaborating and trying to like create whatever our main challenge is, like talking about that a lot and trying to put that all together. And then on the following day, that's like the decision day where they figure out who's top, bottom, et cetera, et cetera. And that's usually the day where we're not with Peppermint. So typically a full 24 hours before we go onto the runway.
Okay, that's interesting to know, because I always wondered on shows like The Voice, I always wondered how much time you actually get with the judges, because I mean, obviously The Voice is slightly different, but obviously these people are quite well known, like Peppermint's very well known. So I always wonder, with all the production schedule, how much time they actually get, whether it's just what we see on camera, whether they are very kind of like personable and actually speak to you, or if it's only a relationship for camera.
My brain's turning to see if like what can I the show. I don't really care. We're just gonna say whatever. So I would say almost most of the time, almost all the time. When we were working with Peppermint, and this is not, she's a businesswoman. She is a busy woman, and like I totally get it. But when it came to the show, I personally feel like she wasn't always there with us. Like she would be in the room, but maybe she's helping us out and sending an email or texting or having a little snack, et cetera, et cetera. And like, this isn't to, diminish, the help that she provided for some of us, but I'm someone who needs a lot of individual attention. And I felt like when I left the show, I literally was like, I don't feel like I learned anything from her because I didn't really get a lot of time by myself to just like, actually learn. It was just a lot of me watching her send an email and get ready for whatever event she was, getting ready for.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, I can see why. I guess for someone like Peppermint, she's very busy and stuff. But it's if you're going to be on a show as a judge, you like or a mentor, I guess is maybe a better word in that sense. Like that's you do kind of need to do that. So interesting to hear that was your experience. So I think from what I'm hearing, your time on the show was, I guess, unfortunately slightly negative, but then a positive outcome that it helped you with your drag, but negative in the sense that you felt like you were not getting enough attention or enough like learning from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What sort of from if is there some examples you can tell me about or tell us that you would like to share about the show in terms of like an experience that maybe you wish would have been different or like something that happened backstage that maybe we didn't get to see that you thought was quite important to share?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. One that actually did air, and a lot of people caught on to was I don't remember which episode it was, but they were talking about, my runway look. And they were just essentially just saying that they don't think that it's good up to par with everyone else, which I totally disagree. But one of the things that Crystal said, and I seen her at DragCon, and I kind of wish I talked to her about this, but she had said that I had no confidence. And I was like, sorry, what? Like, there's no way you can watch the show and like see the way that I was performing and be like, you have no confidence. I was confident in myself. There was never a point in the show where I didn't believe in myself. The only time I guess you could say I kind of showed that I was no longer interested in being there, which didn't even air, was around, I think it was like episode 4 or 5. I was just like, I feel undervalued and not appreciated. And I think it's my time to just leave and leave on my own terms, not be sent home. Like, just go, peace out. It's been fun. Which is ironic in filming time. It was the same week that Isis had actually left Canada versus the world. So had I done that, we both would have gotten our phones at the same time and been like, hey, I just left, which is so stupid. But like, yeah, at the time I didn't lose confidence in myself. I was more so just like, I don't feel like I'm being judged fairly, and I don't feel like I'm being appreciated here. So I'd rather take my business elsewhere.
No, I mean that's very fair. I mean, like I said, I've not seen the show, but when I was researching for this interview, I like Googled your name, and like on YouTube, someone did like a mashup video of all of your looks from Call Me Mother.
Yes.
And I looked at them, and I all thought they looked really good. I was like, yeah, so it baffles me from what you're saying, like they do, because I saw all of them and I was like, they all look really professional as well, to me anyway. Like they look like it could be a drag race package, as they call it, like the outfits.
I kid you not, the amount of times that I've heard that. I remember I posted my finale look and someone wrote this whole thing where they were just like, you literally could have taken this exact same package and brought it to a drag race stage, and there is no way that you could ever have been in the bottom. Like, and I 100% agree. I think that the show was looking for something different, and I wasn't that mold that they wanted. They kept saying that they didn't want anyone like the season 1 winner, but unfortunately, that's kind of the route that they ended up going anyways. I personally feel that they want to celebrate the very avant-garde, very different, almost into the clownish, like not gendered at all, just very non-binary-esque drag. And I hope I'm not offending either of the winners. I think they are both amazing performers and both very, very talented and have won for obvious reasons. But I don't think that I should have been on the show because of the mold that they want to create. And that's totally fine. Just decline me next time.
Well, I guess, yeah, it sounds, yeah. So unfortunately, I suppose it sounds like you didn't have a great experience in a way, but maybe, like they always say, sometimes you know, if they close the door, they open a window. So it's sort of, you maybe didn't have a great experience, but it got you some exposure and like an audience that maybe wouldn't have seen you before, even if it did unfortunately have a negative experience. Would you therefore say, like, if you could go back in time, would you have not done it?
See, and I've been asked this before, and it's always such a hard question to respond to because it's a bit of both. In one hand, as I said, the show after the fact, like, you know, after going through all the depression and shaving my head, I realized how much more of a great artist I am, and, you know, how to elevate myself. But in one hand, I feel like I didn't have to go through all of that to realize I'm such an amazing artist and that I can elevate myself. So I think I'm leaning a bit more to I should have never done it. Like if I could go back, I wouldn't have done it. But again, also there's that one part of me that's like, it did help me elevate myself after the fact.
Oh, that's very like it's. I guess in life, it's never like black and white. It's grey in the mid. Like
Yeah.
it's always sort of a bit of everything. So I mean, you know, obviously, unfortunately, you didn't have a great experience. Like I said, I've not watched it, but I think in terms of the placement, you came runner up though, right? Was it 3 or 4 runners up?
Yeah, there was two other people, so 3 runners up and then the winner.
So I guess in terms of like you still placed quite well for someone that had been in the bottom several times. If to come runner up is still like really good in terms of the ranking, even if you disagree with the decision. It's still nice to think that you came runner up, even if you were in the bottom quite a few times.
Yeah, I almost feel like my runner-up placement, like if you ever get to see the finale, even the way they edited the whole finale, for a slight second there, I almost believed that they were actually gonna crown me. And I was like, oh, this is insane. Like I remember I did a finale viewing party and I just remember sitting there and going, this is quite interesting. Like I feel like I could actually have this in the bag. And then to not get it in the end. But in the moment, I think that my top 4 placement goes to show that everything that happened throughout the season made absolutely no sense. Like I really was just a genuine person, and I think that in every you know, challenge and runway, I feel like I did so well that Jack Fed actually said this to me over a meal, and he was just telling me that they forgot to pull me up after punching me down. That's kind of why nothing made sense when you watch the whole season, because I'm just like awkwardly in the finale after, you know, being told that I was garbage. So I don't know. It's an interesting show.
Yeah, maybe it sounds to me like maybe they haven't quite found what they were looking for, or the casting wasn't quite right. I mean, yeah, unfortunate for you, but I'm glad that you managed to pull something positive out of a negative experience, even if it wasn't what you wanted. So, you know, let's hope it's not put you off TV in general, because I'm sure everyone would love to see you on Drag Race, and hopefully there you would be celebrated for the gorgeous goddess that you are.
Maybe one day, we'll see.
The name of my channel is Drag Tea Served. So I was wondering if you could serve us some drag tea, maybe both from Drag Race and from Call Me Mother. Maybe you can, oh, and you're having some tea. I was wondering if you could maybe tell us something behind the scenes that happened, something like either something shady that happened, or maybe it's just like a funny memory or something you wish had been shown.
Okay, let's see. Oh my God. Okay. This is actually, I thought it was hilarious. I kind of wish it stayed in. But so during the prom episode on Drag Race, when they were critiquing Adriana and Friday, her partner, Brooklyn said, and I think this part's in the episode, Brooklyn says that the outfit is stunning and that she would wear it. And both me and Isis went, huh? like real loud. And at the exact same time, like same head movement and everything. And like I like we both think it's hilarious because it's just like again another moment to show that like we are so similar with just like how we think, how our brain processes. Yeah, that's like my twin. I love Ice.
Well, and did the other people clock that you had done that and turn around and like look at you, sort of thing?
I think it was Kendall that was beside me, and I think Kendall had turned her head and maybe like laughed or something. But I don't think anyone else had noticed in the room. I wish they left that in because that was so funny.
So were you referring to Adriana's outfit or the partner's outfit?
The partner's outfit because it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And Adriana, you know I love you. Sending hearts. But that outfit was really bad. Like I don't think anyone should ever wear I kid you not, I'm pretty sure Friday actually said, Friday, her partner, Friday had said, I feel like Michelle Visage and wow retweeted it. And then Michelle Visage quote tweeted it. And I just remember going, Michelle, you know you would not wear it. Stop it. Don't say that. Don't lie to the girl. Don't do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely you've got like that, the shadiness from the House of Couture.
It's bad. And I'm the nice one, I promise.
Yeah, well, I mean, we also Isis was shady on her season, but she always had like a lovable side to her that you like couldn't get angry at her because she was funny when being shady. So then you can't get mad at someone if you're laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Adriana looked great in her outfit, but yeah, and her partner, I felt so bad because her partner seems so sweet, and I thought the makeup was good, but yeah, the outfit could have had some room for improvement, shall we say? So funny to hear that was a moment. So do you have some backstage tea perhaps from Call Me Mother that you haven't already told us?
Oh my God. It's nothing good. Well, okay, so in the second and third episode, they're both double eliminations. After having an episode one triple elimination. So we had essentially lost, I can't do math, we lost like 7 people within the first 3 episodes. And I remember it was the third episode, and they had told us that again, 2 people are going home. And I just remember I was just like, why are you like, you're playing with queer people's emotions. I know I'm not going home, but like, literally, like, you are playing with queer people's emotions. Sure, we signed up for this, but like, it really is trauma. Like, that's a traumatic experience to, go on a show and, you believe that you're going to be able to show as much as you can. And I remember another contestant who also made it to the finale with me. Their name is Jessie Prezus. And they told me later that like they were just trying to make good TV. But like we kind of got into a bit of a fight where I was just like, this is unfair to the queer people that are in this cast. And they were just like, well, you signed up for it, like da 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 da. And I was just like, girl, well, good luck when you're the one that's going home. Get ready to pack your bags. They didn't go home, but it was a fun little time. They should have used it in the show. It was intense. It was hot.
that sounds like, yeah, it sounds to me like they were trying to maybe, yeah, make good TV, but were unfortunately sacrificing people's emotions for it. But, I guess unfortunately Drag Race also do that, but I think Drag Race has been around for so long now, they're probably a bit more careful about about doing it maybe, whereas Call Me Mother's quite new.
Yeah, exactly. They're, they send home half the cast in the first episode, but then bring them back for the second episode.
Also, but just as you were speaking just then, I realized I was trying to think, who does Makayla remind me of? And the person you remind me of, the way you speak, kind of the way you look, but just the way you speak and your like funny attitude, is Dita Ritz.
Oh my God, I love Dita Ritz.
You were giving me, because Dita always like, she does the Roscoe's viewing parties and she's always so funny and like she goes such like, she's got such confidence and like diva attitude, but is really funny with it and like obviously stunning as well. So like when you were talking, I was like, oh my God, you're just like Dita Ritz.
That's so, thank you.
But
I actually,
she doesn't suffer fools either. Like she's always calling people out. It's so funny.
I think that she's everything. I don't remember when I had seen her season because I know the first ever Drag Race season I had ever seen was season 8. And then I kind of went backwards from there. And I remember when I seen Dita Ritz, I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with you. So I appreciate that so much.
No, I love Dita. Season 4 was my first season I ever watched, and then I went back. So I loved her. She was so funny. Anyway, that was just as she was talking, I was like, oh my God, this is Dita Ritz.
Thank you. Oh my God. Now I need Dita Ritz and I to do a whole photo shoot together.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, thank you for spilling the tea. It's very interesting, and I'm glad that you had a good experience on Drag Race, and maybe the Call Me Mother, like hopefully they maybe balanced each other out a little bit.
Tiny bit.
Well, I'd love to get on to my subscriber questions, if I may.
Absolutely.
So there were lots of questions for you. So someone asked, since being adopted by Isis, what is the best advice that she's given you?
Ooh. Well, I've had a few run-ins with just like, you know, fans kind of like disagreeing with me or, just a few online troubles, I guess you could say. And one of the things that Isis taught me was take that moment as the learning moment, and, use that moment to just find all the people you love and be able to talk to them and open up to them. I'm someone who tries to be as personable as possible, but also likes to keep things for me. So you might notice that I almost never really talk about home life or anything. I might talk about things that are, related to my drag in some way, but I never actually talk about my own personal life. And that's because just like this world that I was thrown into is, a very large one. And while I love Drag Race fans, sometimes they can be a little brutal. So sometimes you just gotta keep your opinions to yourself and have some tea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering this. You might not remember, but when I was waiting to see you at DragCon, there was like a little curtain, and you were in like a separate room that we couldn't see, and we had to like wait in these little chairs to get like, well, after waiting in the line, there was like a few chairs, almost like waiting at the doctor's office. And like I was next to the curtain about to go in, and so obviously I could hear you two because you were right on the other side of the curtain. And I thought, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I thought you said that the people before me had like, one of them had like said something slightly shady to you because you hadn't been on Drag Race. And you were like, you basically like called them out and were like, no. And like you said to Isis about it. And I thought that was really funny.
I can't believe that you heard that.
That was the person before me.
I keep forgetting that those curtains are just sheer and everyone could hear everything. Yes, that definitely did happen. And I can count how many, like there wasn't too many of them, but to all 5 of you shady that came to the booth, I will never like you ever again.
No, I mean, it must be not like, because I guess what they were saying is they didn't know who you were because you weren't on Drag Race. I'm assuming that was kind of the gist of what I was getting. And like, that's so mean. Yeah. Why would you say that?
It's for me, it was more so just like, you don't have to know me, but you've seen the name of the booth. It's the House of Couture booth. And you know exactly what you're paying for because as soon as you come in, it says who's in the booth. You see all of our merch out. Like it's not like you didn't know there was going to be some other person there. And so you don't have to tell me that you don't know me. Just come in. So lovely to meet another couture. Isis, I adore you. I love you. Kimmy, I love you and I adore you. That's it. Like that's all that really needs to happen. And I'm not sure if it was this specific person, but someone had like stepped on my gown and was like standing on it. And I like Sally, Isis's assistant was there. And I was like, Sally, like this person's like just standing on my garment. Like, I'm not a cheap girl. You like get off of my outfit, And Sally kind of like, told them like, hey, you're standing on this on, Makayla's outfit. Like you should step away, like apologize, They fully looked me up and down and just like stepped off and continued talking to Isis. And I was like, that is what I find disrespectful, because that didn't have to happen. You know, you could have apologized. I'm so sorry that that happened. I'm a drag queen nonetheless. I'm not just, even if it was just someone on the street, don't do that. It's rude, it's disrespectful. And maybe I'm just too Canadian, but I apologize for everything. So, yeah.
I did wonder because, like, I mean, I loved Isis. Don't get me wrong, but I came to the booth more for you because I knew I was going to be interviewing you and I really liked you. But I also loved Isis. I would have wanted to see her anyway, but I was like, okay, great. I can sort of see both of them. But I remember sort of, so I was more kind of going to see you and Isis as well. But when I heard that, I was like, did I hear that correctly? And I thought, and then it made me wonder, like, yeah, what it would be like for you being in that situation, given that you weren't on the show, and how like nasty that must feel. And I felt so bad for you. And that's why I was like, you just, even if you don't know someone, just like pretend and be like, oh hi, like
Yeah, literally pretend. I like just pretend. I think I had like a few people pretend that they knew who I was, and actually said my name wrong, but that's totally fine. I still felt so appreciated.
well, I'm glad that you had Isis there for support, and like Kimmy as well, although Kimmy wasn't there when I was there, but I'm glad that you sort of had your family around you and everything. So that's lovely.
It really was amazing. And that night when we got back to the Airbnb that we were at, Ice was like, I am so sorry for today. And I promise you, and like kind of like talked to me and Kimmy, was just like, if any of this happens tomorrow, we're immediately calling them out and telling them to leave the booth. And that's what we did for all of the rest of the days. Like, I appreciated that so much, because like we as coutures do not around. We care for one another so much that we will go full on to bat, like if we have to, put someone in their place for how they're treating another couture.
No, I mean, I can totally see Ice. I can just imagine you in the Airbnb. I can just see Isis doing that because because like she doesn't like she's had that experience herself on Drag Race. She left Canada versus the world because of that kind of feelings of stuff. So I can totally see her being the mother, and so I'm glad that you had that. And sorry that you had to have that experience in the first place. Some people are so weird. I mean, anyway.
Trust me, I know.
Sorry on behalf of the British people.
It's okay. It's okay. I still love London. I had so much fun.
Good. I'm glad. The next question was someone said there were lots of questions about, I know you're on Call Me Mother, but would you consider going on Drag Race, which we've covered. So I think
we've covered. Yeah.
That was a lot of questions. A lot.
I did see a few of them. I've seen a few of them, and like truly, I did really prepare myself to answer it. Like I just right now, I think that them not putting me on for season 3 and 4 was a right decision on their part. And I think that right now I want to do other things. Like I think I want to almost do TV things that have nothing to do with drag, but somehow I'm just there in drag. Like I want to do some iconic, and like do something memorable. And not that Drag Race isn't memorable, but like there's so many other ways that like you can be on TV and be in drag. So we'll see. Things are coming. I have stuff coming. So I'm really excited.
We're very excited. Fingers crossed, obviously, for everything in the future as well. So that's good. Someone asked, do you keep in contact with your Call Me Mother siblings? And they said you and Justin a bit, which is a great name, were my favorite from your family. It would be great to see you do a show together. Would you consider it?
Absolutely. On the show, I don't think a lot of people knew about this, but on the show, I actually had like a bit of like I don't like Justin, but I love Justin. There was like a bit of we had some very we had conversations on the show that weren't so sweet. But after leaving the show and being able to talk to one another, we just came down to the point where it's just like siblings fight and that's fine. And we love each other now, and I would love to come down to Vancouver and perform with them again.
No, it's lovely to hear, and I'm glad that I think that happens often on Drag Race as well. Like that, maybe people butt heads on the show because it's like a pressure cooker and it's a different environment. Once you're off the show, you then sort of find common ground and you start to like each other more.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's very much just because of the scenario that we met in that we didn't have the best first footing. But yeah, I absolutely love Justin so much and I can't wait to see them again.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you've had that. Someone asked, which I thought was quite interesting. So obviously you aren't, because we've talked, you're quite young. Someone said, is it possible, in your opinion, for a young queen to pursue higher education and drag at the same time?
Absolutely. It's definitely possible. I have so many friends who are, who've graduated from university and were also doing drag on the side. You do just kind of have to sacrifice a few things. Like when you're going into higher education, you are paying for this thing. So I would recommend personally that you never put this on the back burner. Always put drag on the back burner until you've reached a point where you can balance the both and do both at the same time at the capacity that you would like to. But yeah, it's definitely possible. There's so many people who do it. I mean, not really related, but kind of related. When I first started doing drag, I was kind of, going to different schools and performing and whatnot, but I was also doing my schoolwork and also going to my after school job that I had and doing all these different clubs and stuff. So, it's possible. You just need to know where you're putting your energy into and what's more important.
That's a very mature attitude. I mean, yeah, you certainly don't talk like a 20-year-old. When I was 20, I was so like dumb and whatever. So, that's nice.
I like to believe that somewhere deep down there's like a 40-year-old woman sitting inside me and she makes all of my life choices.
That's probably a good thing. You can look like a 20-year-old, but like have the sort of foresight of a 40-year-old.
Yes. I'm gonna call her Martha from now on.
That's a good name. So the last question, someone asked another question, which I thought was potentially might be quite difficult to answer. Someone said, of the House of Couture, who do you think is the best at what thing? Like, so what's each of your strengths? You have to be like one thing that each of you is the best at.
This is this is gonna get me in trouble. Okay, I think without saying, Isis is the fashion mother. She's like literally top tier. I could never. I do believe that, and I think we all kind of agree as a house that fashion wise, I have a better eye for fashion than Kimmy does, but that's just because like that's not where she focuses her drag, and it makes sense. I kind of it's this is why the question's hard. I kind of balance out both Isis and Kimmy because I have what they both have. It's just at different capacities. So I would never refer to myself as like the fashion girl, but I feel like I do have a good eye for what I'm wearing and how I wear it. Whereas Kimmy does not fully have that, but she is like literally a sickening entertainer. And I, without a doubt, believe that she could probably outperform me. But I also do believe that I have a bit of that performer bug in me. So I would say Ice, fashion goddess, fashion queen, 10 out of 10. Kimmy, performer, house down, like has everything that you want to see at a show. And then I'm kind of just in between.
You're the all-rounder, I would call it.
You know what? I'll take that.
I thought it was an interesting question because I was like, yeah, you're all so good. Like the House Couture is one of those where I looked at all of you and I was like, they're all good and they all have amazing fashion. It's like it's really difficult to decide what each of them are good at. Right? It's not like, yeah, it's difficult.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like even with like Kimmy wearing just bras and panties, it's like even with those, she like looks so good though. Like looking good is looking good at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm very like they're all amazing and I'm so proud of them.
No, they're all amazing, and like there's a reason why they were both on Drag Race. One of them's a winner, and like Kimmy was also iconic on her season. I really liked her. She was a sickening performer, like great lip syncer. So I can see why that's all. Like, being in that house must be such an honor, because like you then sort of the acknowledgement that you're also iconic, just like they are.
No, literally that. And I think also just like getting to see some of the things that they do and pull out. Like when I got to see Isis's finale runway, I was just like, oh my God, like I need to, try and be at that level. And then when I see Kimmy performing at all her gigs, I'm just like, wow, I want to be at that level. So we're all, taking inspiration from one another and always trying to be better than the person we were the day before.
That's very mature. There you go. I mean, that's why it's a sickening house, and you're part of it. Well, thank you for that. That's all the questions, and I'd love to get on to my quick fire round of questions. So
Let's do
just 5 silly questions, like some are drag related, some are not, but it's just to get like your first top of your head quick response. So, lipstick or lip gloss?
Lipstick.
Yes or no, pineapple on pizza?
Oh my God. No.
Favorite emoji?
Oh, this one. The one's like, oh, I love that emoji. I love it so much.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
And can you summarize your experience on Drag Race in one word and your experience on Call Me Mother in one word?
Experience on Drag Race, I would say life-changing. Oh, that's 2 words. Well,
hyphen.
You get what I mean. Hyphen. And experience on Call Me Mother, different. Yeah, that was the nice way of saying whatever I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much. It was lovely speaking to you. I'm sure my audience has loved to hear more about you and see more of your personality and like the elevation. Because I think even since on Drag Race, you've changed so much. Like it's almost like 2 different people. Like the evolution. Like Pokemon when they evolve. Like it's
Yes.
crazy. I was wondering if if people want to sort of find more about you, where can people find you, like social media? Do you have any like projects or anything you want to talk about?
Yes, everyone can follow me at Makayla.Couture on all platforms except for Twitter, where it's just Makayla Couture. And you can catch me in the UK very, very soon with a House of Couture tour. And what else is there? Oh, I have a few TV projects that are coming out very soon. One being a film that's going to be in Canada, and another show that I assume it's just going to be everywhere. And I don't know what else. Come see me if I'm in your city.
Great. Well, I'm sure we're all so happy to hear that you've got something more in the pipeline, because we just want more Makayla. Like that's all we want. We just want more. The House of Couture wants more, all of that. So thank you so much. It's been lovely speaking to you, and let's hope we see you either on Drag Race or whatever else it is that you want to do.
Thank you, my angel. It was so nice talking to you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Bye.
Bye.